Alright, so in this video, this might be a little bit of a shorter one, but the next topic I essentially wanted to discuss was how long you should plan for your fat loss diet. Now, once we've established certain expectations of ourselves for our general rate of progress and how much we are essentially happy or willing to restrict, made sure that we've had an honest look about if it's realistic for us as an individual, regardless of what anybody else is doing. Once we form some sort of a realistic set of expectations, we've set ourselves up for feeling like we're going to succeed, okay? If you've done a good job. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is deciding how long you want to do it for. Now, this might sound like this is only a bit more of a concentrated approach where you have 12 weeks to lose as much as possible, but it's not always like that. Because, say for example, you've got an individual who has a lot of weight to lose, whether this is you or you're looking after somebody else. If they've got a lot of weight to lose and it's going to take them a total of 1 year to lose it, just in theory, let's just say hypothetically, then you might not want to just force this person to restrict for a whole year straight until they lose all the weight and then ta-da, the transformation's done. Because by the end, even if they make it, they might have burnt out and they might have lost essentially the will to restrict after that, or not restrict, but hold themselves accountable to track and be sensible and essentially continue to enforce the principles that got them there, but with a little bit more leeway in order to maintain. They might just say, hey, to hell with this, that was traumatizing and I've had enough. They eat everything in sight, they put the weight back on, and you've essentially just restricted them of some essential nutrients for a year, and that's it, you've gone backwards again. So it might not be the best idea to just keep it open-ended and just keep going until you lose all the weight. And then on the other hand, if you are somebody who only has a small amount of weight to lose, then keeping it open-ended might mean that you fall into the trap of becoming a bit complacent. Because if you've only got a few kilos to lose, and you're maybe in a place where you haven't set a target, you don't really have anything specific in mind, you're going to just kind of clean things up a little bit, then what happens is every couple of days, a friend invites you out for food, you say, well, I don't want to track today, I can't be bothered, and then all of a sudden you set yourself back, maybe a little bit, or at least undo a little bit of your hard work, and then it's a little bit of a standstill, you're not getting very far, you're losing weight so unbelievably slowly, that essentially you're dragging a process on that could be done very, very short, or in a short space of time, you're dragging it on for months for no reason. If you're, on the other hand, to set a target, and it would inspire some motivation and some drive, and would essentially encourage you to be a bit more restrictive and sensible, hold yourself a bit more accountable, you can get the job done and go back to living your normal life, which is a great thing. So, we've got many reasons why setting some sort of a time frame, or at least having a rough time frame in mind, might be a good idea. So there is nothing that can tell you that one time frame is absolutely the best over all other time frames, and you should absolutely adhere to this no matter who you are. That's just not true. But if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot to lose, you might want to keep it short and just say, hey, listen, I just want to get this done. 4 weeks, I'm going to lose 3 kilograms, push myself really hard, and then that's me done. Okay? Now, if you're somebody who maybe has 3 kilos to lose and you want to stretch out a little bit and do it over 6 weeks, that's also totally cool. But essentially just deciding on what's realistic, again, coming back to the conversation of setting realistic expectations, decide what's going to help you, dedicate a time frame in which is going to inspire some motivation in your mind. If you don't have much to lose, therefore you've got something to adhere to, especially alongside your actual daily targets, and that's going to keep you on track. So there could be a situation where you've not got much to lose, but just setting a little bit of a time frame might be a good idea, and that can be as little or as many weeks as you realistically want, because let's be honest, if you've only got a little bit to lose, even if you take 6 weeks to lose it, you're probably not going to burn out. Now, take an individual who's got a lot to lose, which is another really good example. I would say an average time frame to dedicate for one fat loss phase at a time would be anywhere between 12 to 20 weeks. Because in my experience, and this is not true for everybody, but in my experience, a lot of people typically burn out after about 20 weeks. Now, this is because as we diet, essentially you accumulate something called diet fatigue. This is just a term that's been coined, but essentially describes when you restrict and you essentially undereat, which is what a calorie deficit is, which is required for fat loss. You're essentially underfeeding your body. You're also probably overworking it, relatively speaking, doing a bit more cardio than usual, maybe pushing your steps a little bit higher, maybe working out a bit harder. Whatever it is, you're trying hard. That requires effort. you're also underfeeding, and that also accumulates fatigue. So throughout a diet, the lower your calories get and the more high your fatigue becomes, then essentially this will accumulate to the feeling of potential burnout, whether that be physical or psychological, or a combination of both. Whatever it is, we call that diet fatigue. So going back to my point, if you have an individual and you ask them to lose weight forever, then after a while they'll accumulate so much diet fatigue that they say, I don't want any part of this ever again. And they'll put the weight back on and it's going to be terrible. So what I would recommend doing if you do have a lot of weight to lose is potentially consider splitting it into chunks. Now again, it's person dependent, but if you really hate dieting, maybe shorter time frames where you're going to do 12 weeks of calorie restriction in order to lose weight, take a break for a couple months. 12 weeks back on fat loss, take a break for a couple months. You might need that reset. Now, on the other hand, if you're somebody who you're not obsessed with food, you don't have crazy high hunger signaling anyway, you're happy in the process, you actually quite enjoy dieting, you've got a lot to lose, but you can immerse yourself into it, it's cool, then you might want to do that for a little bit longer. I would imagine that you'd probably still want to consider taking a little bit of a break along the way if you need to. So setting timeframes could be a really good idea. Do you need to do it? No, you can keep it open-ended, but I think keeping it open-ended can either let you fall into the trap of feeling like you need to just lose all of the weight in one go, or you can run into complacency, on the other hand, if you don't have a lot to lose and you're just taking your time about it for no reason. So there's no time frame that's specifically the best. You just need to decide what's probably realistic for you. And I think also just managing your expectations. If you're somebody, for example, in closing who has got a lot to lose, but you've essentially decided that it's realistic to do fat loss for 20 weeks, which is probably the most I find on average. Some people can tolerate more, but it's just generally not great. Let's say you're going to do 20 weeks, then just reminding yourself that it's actually okay to take a break. You might not have lost everything you want to lose, and you might not be as lean as you want to be in the future, but the gym isn't going anywhere. And nutrition and taking care of yourself, that shouldn't be going anywhere either. And actually, taking a break once in a while and just say, I'm going to take my time and do this properly, can reinforce better habits where you can essentially, during that time where you take a break from dieting for fat loss, let's say you diet for 20 weeks, take a break for 2 months, that break for 2 months, the goal then is to try and maintain your hard work. So then you're practicing maintenance habits, which is really important because one day you will have lost all of the weight you want to lose, and then the rest of your life is about maintaining anyway. So a little bit of experience in that would be a good idea as well. So loads of reasons, but you just want to have some sort of a rough plan, in my opinion. Keep it open-ended if you want, but just understand that setting a time frame is a tool, like every other tool, mostly psychological, that can help you achieve your highest chance of success. So that is it for potentially setting a time frame on your fat loss journey.